I was forced to have to talk in front of people as a preacher's kid. I'd rather sit by myself and not talk to nobody. That's me. But this has allowed you to be comfortable and just talk to yourself, and you're not really talking in front of people. Public speaking is one of the biggest fears people have, but hey, you set a camera down, you can talk all day long and just leave it alone. And now you can talk to a whole bunch of people that you will never meet. And I think we're missing out on an opportunity because
I'm excited for you guys to check out today's video. It's actually being brought to you in partnership with Bootstrapping Redefined 2023. This is the 4th annual conference, and this year it focuses on leadership. If you're a leader in ministry, a leader in business, inspiring to be a leader, trying to figure out how do you grow your team and work better with them, this is the conference for you. Now, this conference has been in Virginia, it's been in Maryland. This year it's coming to Atlanta, Georgia. If you're anywhere close to the Atlanta metro area, definitely get your in-person seat right now. But maybe you can't get to Atlanta. We have virtual access, and the team over at Bootstrapping Redefined gave me a huge discount code. So make sure you check that out before all those codes are used up. I'm excited for this conference, get a chance to be a part of it again. Great speakers, great lineup. Now, let's get over to the interview because you guys are really going to enjoy this one. What's going on, everybody? Monty Weaver here, and we are here for another Teach Me Tuesday. I got a good friend. I'm calling him a friend. We ain't met in person yet, but we've met online, and y'all know how online works. You can definitely create some relationships through all of these various platforms. The guy that I have on here today, I first met him on YouTube, and y'all know I'm biased toward YouTube, and I met him about the same time I started my YouTube journey. 2020, I was like, I want to focus sharing my information on YouTube. 2016 was Periscope, 2017 was Periscope, 2018 was doing YouTube or Facebook Lives. But 2020, I was like, I'm going to show up on YouTube and share people what I know about tech. And it just so happened the week before the world shut down, I put out this video called Live Streaming for Churches Using OBS because I was frustrated with churches not embracing video. Everybody just wanted to keep it internal. And I was like, why aren't we live streaming? I was teaching entrepreneurs, but the churches just weren't coming around to it. World shuts down, and little do you know, that video blows up. And then I come across this other guy that's talking about the same stuff and helping churches. And I'm like, who is this guy? Because I don't know anybody else in media ministries that was really sharing this information. The guy that I have here is Dr. AJay Holmes. What's going on, AJay, with the new title? Man, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Monty. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. How does it feel, first of all, to be a doctor, man?
Honestly, I still haven't resonated with it. It's interesting. My sister was saying, I ain't gonna call you Dr. Holmes. My dad was a doctor, and I'm like, that's fine. I only put it on certain stuff.
we gonna get into what introduced you to the title doctor, like how you got that, for sure, because what you do is powerful. I resonated with it. AJay is someone that has grown up in the church, been a part of it. He knows how to play, I think, every instrument, which you migrated over into the tech space. And I love talking to techies and watching techie videos. But I didn't come across anybody in all of my YouTube video watching that really focused on the ministry aspect. How did you get into, like, I want to teach ministries how to use technology? Like, what got you into that?
I mean, honestly, like a long time ago, like when I was 6, I always said I wanted to be a business owner. And at the time, I loved computers. My dad brought home a Tandy 1000. Within 5 minutes, I broke it. Then I got a spanking after that, and I had to figure out how to put it together. And as I went through, I was like, man, I love computers. I love music. I wonder if I could actually merge them together. And I was always in church, and I'm like, it'd be really cool if I could integrate computers in some way with music. And that was the whole thing back in the day. And then when the music stuff really didn't go, it was like, I remember getting hired at a church to play, and they were building a new sanctuary. And I was like, hey, can I walk in and see what y'all are doing? They said, yeah. I look up and I'm like, why y'all getting that old stuff? They're like, they said it's cutting edge. No, that's 15 years old. Like, who told y'all this? And then as more time went in, I just started realizing it's like, man, a lot of churches, they are the last ones to embrace technology. And unfortunately, they get fooled a lot into being told. So it ended up being, I was asked they thought computers and all this was the same, which it wasn't. And they're like, hey, could you help us out? And I'm like, okay. I started doing a deep dive. There was nothing on YouTube. And I was like, I started piecemealing it together. And I said, let me at least put this stuff in place because I don't see nobody else documenting it. So I just documented my journey, and it kind of blew up after that.
Yeah. Let's talk about 2020. Before 2020, what did showing up and teaching people about teaching ministries about technology, what did before 2020 look like for you as far as like business?
Non-existent, pretty much. I mainly started doing the YouTube stuff because I was named as the head of the media after figuring out all this stuff. And pretty much what ended up happening is a lot of people just didn't come to the trainings. And it was new concepts that it seemed like it went over people's heads. It wasn't interesting. Very few people were interested in it. So I started documenting because I hated repeating myself. So I'm like, let me record this. No one's showing up at the meetings. Nobody's showing up at the trainings. So let me just record myself walking through it. And hey, if y'all are ever interested, y'all can watch it again because I'm not going to repeat it. And it went from posting YouTube videos to I had about 7 people watching it, and 6 of those people were me from different accounts just watching myself. And I'm like, I kept telling myself it has to be somebody else out here is looking for this type of information. Because I know there's nothing new. If I'm looking for it, I know somebody else has to be looking for it. So I'm like, hey, let me at least start putting the little bit I know out there, and maybe we'll find somebody. And then just like you said, it's like I was doing that 2016, 2017 with maybe 1, 2, 3 people. And then working with big thank you to the church media guys. They found me and they brought me on, and then we just started talking about tech. They rallied the troops to push me to like 900 people, subscribers over like 3 years. Then that next year, 2020, March, it just went gangbusters. And everybody's like, man, this guy's an opportunity. Oh, he was posting these videos 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I try to tell people. It's like, I'm not new to this. Like, you just found me. You just discovered me. And it was the same thing for me. I had got invited by a buddy of mine, and he knew that my professional day job, I was doing VTC work. So I knew and understood how video transmitted and works. So I knew like the technical side of it. And I've always been a techie. So if it's a gizmo gadget, I want to play with it anyway. So I was just kind of having fun. And he said, why don't you teach people like how to use this live streaming thing? And I'm like, I'm an introvert. So I'm like, I'm not getting on camera to teach them. Like there was no benefit for me to go out here and teach people like how to live stream because I didn't have a business or anything. It was just more something I knew how to do. I was already recording videos for my church, but at that time, we weren't live streaming yet, just didn't have the budget for equipment or what we thought was the budget for equipment. And I was teaching OBS back in 2016. So I had same thing you did. I was just tired of teaching OBS in these different settings, different classes, webinars. I'm like, I'm just going to do a video, put it on YouTube, and whatever happens, happen. And then, so it sounds like we have a very similar time journey because 2020, everything just changed. You just talked about like posting on YouTube and the people thinking it was opportunistic, but like really it was you, like you said, documenting your journey. Would you say YouTube is the reason you have a thriving business like you do right now?
I mean, I would say that. And then on top of just like my beliefs and stuff like that and how I got into this, I would say, yeah, I think it was a moment of like God directed me into this. But then at the same time, it was like he prepped me and then the platform was there. So, yeah, I would think so that I was, now I'm getting calls and stuff like that from people recommending me. But again, I've reached more people from this platform that's global. I mean, I'm here in Richmond, Virginia, but, just like you, we can reach every end of the world.
Yeah. And to that point, like that's your mission goal, is to help ministries reach every part of the world. Can you kind of talk about, like, it's the same concept. You created videos on YouTube, it's getting seen by all these people. Why is it so difficult, AJ, for these ministries, or has been difficult for these ministries to embrace technologies, more specifically like video and live streaming? What have you seen?
It's just old paradigms that people have not let go of. Me being in the church since my entire life, I'm still young enough to remember where the TV was considered the one-eyed devil. Everybody was like, oh, you can't do it. But really what that was, and it's just like with live streaming, it's a knee-jerk reaction to hide their inadequacies and ignorance. Meaning that back in the day, oh, we don't need to do the TV. What that really was, we don't have nowhere close to the funds to even be in that arena. So it's easier to demonize it and scare people away from admitting that we don't have it. That's the same thing I'm seeing right now. Even with all the videos that me, you, and a bunch of other people have done, people still think all of this costs billions to do. And instead of reaching out and being like, hey, the church down the street is doing something. I know this, I know this, I know YouTube, I know this. Instead of people researching it, they're more comfortable complaining about not knowing than answering their question and knowing.
Yeah. One of the things that you had talked about, I believe it's during your roundtable discussion. And for those that don't know, AJ has a Facebook community for media ministry people. So we'll link to it so you guys can check that out. But during one of your roundtables, you were talking about live streaming to get outside of the four walls of the church, and how some of the churches just want to keep their message inside and they don't realize the people that they could reach outside, the prison ministries, the nursing homes. Can you kind of talk about that concept, especially for people that just, they want to keep it to themselves because they don't want people to stay at home. They're more focused. I don't want you to stay at home because you're going to watch the live stream, forgetting that there's a group of people that, quite frankly, they don't even live remotely close to your ministry, but they would love to interact with it and participate.
Yeah, it was a couple of things. I just read this one. I was listening to this podcast a friend told me, and this guy said this one thing that just like what they jokingly say, I felt it in my shana now when he said it. He was saying that for just to that same statement of people who are content and not trying to go anywhere, they were saying that 2/3 of God is go. And I'm like, huh? Yeah, 3 letters, 2 of his letters and God are go. Meaning that it's not about sitting still. It's about going out and sharing. And it's like, just like you said, like we have one guy, Reverend Leroy, he runs a prison ministry to where, unfortunately, people have made mistakes in their life. They've got them straight. But because of the laws of the land, they're not allowed to be around kids. They can't come around certain people. So are we punishing them because they can't come inside? We're treating it like it's a club, like an exclusive, like back in the day, they used to have the coats, the members only coats. It's almost like churches doing stuff like that when our responsibility is to share with anybody, all that are willing, anybody who's willing to listen, not, hey, unless you come inside. And this just gives us an opportunity of like you, I was forced to have to talk in front of people as a preacher's kid. I'd rather sit by myself and not talk to nobody. That's me. But this has allowed you to be comfortable and just talk to yourself, and you're not really talking in front of people. Public speaking is one of the biggest fears people have. But hey, you set a camera down, you can talk all day long and just leave it alone. And now you can talk to a whole bunch of people that you will never meet. And I think we're missing out on an opportunity because real talk, talking in front of the church to the same people you've been talking to for 20, 30, whatever years, that's easy.
Yeah.
Talking to people that you have to share something that this might be the first time that they ever hear, and you have to be willing to entertain debate. That's where we actually are able to meet people where we're at and find out where they are. And this is an opportunity that, whether it be in church, whether it be in business, it opens up an opportunity. Like I had this one pastor, actually a rabbi out in Israel, that contacted me, and he was against all this stuff. He was all about staying inside the four walls. And his sister was anti everything, just spoke negative about everything. But then when COVID hit, just like everybody, they were scared. And because of so much that she said, her pride wouldn't let her come to church because of all the negatives she said. But the live stream that her brother was against, she was able to get what she needed, but save face because her pride wouldn't let her be like, man, I was wrong, this, and this. And that was, he just said, man, I demonized this the whole time. And this tool was able to reach my sister in a way that I never could. And that's when he said, you know what? I realized that it was my choice against this tech rather than here's an opportunity with tech to reach more people.
Yeah. It's like that perspective. Which lens are you looking at this through? I remember installing these setups at churches and everything. And, you know, I've always been a part of the media ministry. I haven't served on any other ministries in the church. Like I was the kid, AJ, like I wasn't going to sing in the choir, but I'll go in the tape ministry and like, I'll do that. So I'm not going to be in the front. But I remember as I was installing these setups and talking to these pastors and leaders, you kind of you get a chance to learn who they are as people, because they were like, we got to do something. Otherwise, these doors are going to close and they're not going to open back up. But what I found interesting, AJ, is I thought they could speak to anybody. What I found was they had struggled at speaking to the camera. So when they were forced and there was no people in the seats, they couldn't look at the lens and speak to the lens and deliver that same message. Can you talk about like how to communicate with an online audience? Because I think they forget, hey, your audience can leave some chats, they can comment, they'll probably reach out to call you or email you too. Like, don't forget about it. But I think some people just don't know how to communicate with the camera, even though they grew up and they speak to people and they physically can see them, but now they don't have that direct in-person head nodding and smiling and all that now.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of creativity and some people laughed at it, but it was beneficial. I've seen certain churches, they took photos of different people in the church and went to, it's not Kinko's, but FedEx, because they bought them out, and they blew them up as poster boards and set them in the chairs of people's reactions. And I've seen people take a same poster board like that and put it on the lens of the camera. So the lens was show right through the hole of where the person is. So they are forced to look at the person's eyes. It was just subconscious. I mean, it was whatever trick works, it was stuff like that. And then it just got into the habit of like, even with my pastor, we would do Bible study. And I recommended doing kind of an interactive, like it was a talk show, kind of like how you're doing right now, where I'm just saying like, hey, I'm going to help guide you. You're still going to teach, but I'm going to help guide you as if it's one person here, and try to, for some people, not that my pastor was like this, but hey, we can't have a whole church here, but let me have at least one person here so me and you can talk. And now it's just like the Oprah show. You got an audience watching, but we have some engagement to put the human side of it. And it says, that's what I think people need to be open to. There's a new dynamic on how it can be done. Like what you're doing, what so many people are doing. The best way I can compare like what you do is like back in the day when it was QVC, the Home Shopping Network. You're talking, and it's like every skill that we need to be successful has already existed, but people refuse to take here, and put it in the church. Like I'm not a sports person, but you see ESPN, the talk shows of this, and this. It's the same skill set, but for whatever reason, people don't want to think this skill set I can apply here.
I think we're still early on for the ministries. Like, I'm glad they're starting to embrace video. You document all the churches you're going to up and down the East Coast. I know you went out to California and you made a pit stop there. They're finally, to some degree, embracing the fact, okay, we can live stream our services. I would love to see exactly what you're talking about even more, where it's not just we're live streaming on Sunday mornings and a Wednesday evening, but we're having like these pop-up lives where the preacher's having a conversation with other preachers, and it's just like a round table. I'm going to borrow your group, but they're having like these round tables, or they having these discussions with groups, because there's so much that we can do with video to bring in the engagement. And sometimes watching somebody's service can just be boring if they're not the best speaker to kind of get you engaged. But having a conversation and having multiple people on camera and doing it in a live setting, I think it brings more engagement. I have a pastor friend that he literally does his morning prayers, or it started off as morning confessions by himself, and then he just started doing it live. People would join him live. And now it's turned into a whole thing. Like every day, Monday through Friday, he has like 50, 60, sometimes 70 people there watching him live. More people watching him do that than they do watch his Sunday service. And I'm like, there's something there to that. Can you kind of speak to like how ministries could probably leverage video even more? Because I know you've talked about AI here recently on your channels, and I know ministries are just like, oh, I'm not touching that one yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think just like you said, I think, again, me being a preacher's kid and being in church my whole life, I can talk the ups and downs. I can tell you every specific of a church. And some people won't admit this, but I'll say this because just been in church the whole time. Sermons, like you said, are boring. And it's not necessarily the context of them boring. The format is boring. It's expected. We already know exactly. We're going to have this call to worship, open prayer, the opening hymn, the announcements here, somebody fumbling up here at the pulpit. You're going to have this song. You're going to have this. You're going to have offering. They're going to have the frisbee thrown down the aisle, or, meet it. I mean, all that, everybody has been programmed to know exactly how that's going to go. But I think the reason why these pop-up prayers and all this other stuff is because it's different. It's spontaneous. It's different. You just don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's what people are looking for. And everybody's against the microwave mentality. I think, just like you said, it's a perspective. I think instead of saying, oh, everybody's expecting Google and you can just get an answer instantly, we need to play into that. And meaning that some people are in a desperate position that they don't have time to sit down for an hour and a half long service of pomp and circumstance. They want these pop-up live streams get directly to the point of what somebody's looking for. Like, you know what, man, I just need some empowerment before the day starts. Pastor pops up and we're going to start praying for this morning, 5 minutes. Man, you're answering directly what I'm looking for with all this, ceremony to get to it, where I'm not degrading that. There's a place for it. But I think just like YouTube, TikTok, all these platforms, they're offering different forms of media to be consumed based on the situation. And ministries are leaving that behind because I remember Stephanie Davison, one of our subscribers, she's a YouTuber as well too. She said, look at society. Society has moved to video on demand, all these other streaming platforms, everything like that. But the church is the last one to do it. Why don't we have this worship song on demand, this prayer on demand, this situation on demand? No, we're still forcing everybody. It's like the Ray Kroc, who started McDonald's, franchised McDonald's. Horrible movie in a good way. That dude was a horrible person, how he did it. But the whole thing is he looked at a system and changed it to meet, because back then you would have to go to a drive-through. It'd take you 15 minutes to get your food. You had to sit down. You had to wait for people to be over. He changed the model to meet people where they were at and deliver their stuff faster. And I think the same way, hey, we got online giving. You can do all this other stuff instead of passing a collection plate, and you don't have to do all this. Hey, you got Google Music, Amazon Music, all this other stuff. You can listen to any praise and worship music you want on demand. Why can't I get an answer from your specific ministry that I like on demand? Or are you holding me hostage that I have to sit here and commit an hour and a half or 30 minutes just scrubbing through your video to get what I'm looking for? And by the time I've been frustrated and I completely lost what I was looking for.
Yeah. One of the things I was hoping was going to happen during that 2020, 2021 was leadership tapping into the issues of the world. Why aren't you having a service that says, how do I deal with depression? Rather than coming up with this spiritual, how God helps us overcome it. Like, no, people are looking for specific answers. And why isn't the church popping up at the top of that feed? But you have these other gurus and psychologists and news anchors, but we're not showing up there and leveraging the tools that we have access to. Yeah. If y'all aren't following AJ, make sure you subscribe. AJ, I love personally, I love in the roundtables when I'm able to attend, we can kind of have those truth conversations, because I know that short form content is something that I've seen really well with some of the churches I've worked with as well. And I know churches are like, I'm not doing TikTok, I'm not doing Instagram, I'm not doing vertical. Like I'm not doing all of that. And then they don't understand what's happening. And I don't know if you know Dr. R.A. Vernon, but I started following him because of a result of his short form video. And what he did was they're really good about getting your attention. And so the video title was, this pastor told everyone in his congregation to F themselves. It was something along them lines. And I was like, huh? I want to see, what is he talking about? So I go, I'm a just randomly, and I'm searching. I click on the video. He was talking about forgiveness, but they were creative in getting people's attention. And when you watch the video, he said, tell everyone to F you on the row. I want to F all y'all down the road. But if you watch the whole service, he was talking about forgiveness. So F stood for forgiveness. And that's how I began to follow him. So much so that I'm a subscriber to his channel. I've seen him in person come to speak. I've bought his books, and I've become someone that, like, I support his ministry when I see him, because now his short form content drew me in to what he was talking about. Chances are, if they were just doing it the way that most churches do it, I would have never come across who he was. And I think if ministries would like embrace technology and give us the funds for those of us in media ministry that kind of know what's going on, we can help do some of this stuff. I'm not going off on that tangent, but I will talk about the tangent of, you brought it up a little earlier. They think it's so expensive to do this stuff. Can you kind of talk about, like, the price of live streaming is significantly lower than what it used to be in the past?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just like right now, I'm finishing up a digital wall install at a church here locally. 5 years ago, when I was looking at these digital walls, I went to a vendor because I had no idea what they were done. A vendor literally told me, if you don't have $250,000 per screen, don't even look at it.
Sure.
And I'm like, wow. But now these very same screens are like $9,000, and it's just shrunk by so much. Or just like the live streaming stuff of hundreds and thousands of millions of dollars just for airtime. Now platforms, Facebook, YouTube, all these Twitch, all these other ones, they're completely free. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't cost anything. Oh, the internet speed, they're so good now that it's like, hey, you can get a 1 gig download and upload speed from Verizon, or even Comcast is finally doing it now for like $60 some. Okay, mm-hmm. That's not expensive. Hey, you can just use your cell phone that everybody has and just use this and hook it up to your computer. And it's like, this is something you already got. Mm-hmm. So now it's like, what do you mean the price of entry? You already got it in your hands. I mean, that's a good starting point. But thankfully, like with the YOLO boxes, the Black Magics, and all of them who've made a market in getting high quality broadcast stuff, and they've dropped the price down, there's really the nicest way possible of saying it. There's no excuse. Mm-hmm. I think the internet is just like anybody else. If you think the world is bad and you go look out on the internet, you will find everything to validate your view. Mm-hmm. If you think everything is good, you look out, you'll find it. Or the same way, you think live streaming is expensive, you will come across every single thing to validate, yep, I can't afford this. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, I know it's a way of affording it, and you'll find it.
Yeah, yeah. Let me wrap up with a techie question, because I am talking to a techie. Tell y'all watch AJ's videos. He got stuff all over the place. He got cameras here. Y'all thought I had a whole bunch of cameras. Like, check out AJay. He got a whole bunch of cameras too. PTZ cameras, AJay. I thought I was the only one until I saw your videos. I was like, there's somebody else that actually knows what this thing is. And I think they're so helpful for ministries, because we already know you only want to have so many volunteers, and trying to have someone man this camera and some lady operate the audio over here. Like, I have one other guy that works with me on our media ministry, but either one of us can control everything on a Sunday service by ourselves. We can move. We have 3 cameras. We have a 32 mixing board. We're live streaming on one computer. We're doing graphics. Like, we have a system down. Like, we only need one person to do everything, but I think it's because we have the right equipment in place. But the PTZ cameras, they allow you to do so much. Can you talk about your love for PTZ cameras, why you talk about them as much as I do?
Well, I mean, just like you said, originally at my old church, we had 5 camcorders. 3 of them were donated. I donated another 2, and then we had another one. And we had enough people that were manning them all the time. Because just like we were talking about the screens, originally when I looked into the PTZ cameras, they were like $5,000 each. Mm-hmm. And those were just 720p cameras. But since the prices came down, and then with COVID, it's like, man, we were able to replace those 5 camcorders with 2 PTZs, and you wouldn't even know any different. And again, just like you, I've done it to where, hey, everybody wasn't here when COVID started. I was running everything myself, and you couldn't even tell. It was just one person up there because of the beauty of that. Whether it's you and again, I know some people are not big into PTZs because they want the color match and all this other stuff. That ain't the majority of people. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, we're not trying to shoot the next Black Panther movie with these cameras, because they're not good enough to do that. But for the average ministry that just needs to be able to, as somebody said in our group, help produce the Great Commission, they're great, because now instead of having somebody with intercoms all the way in the front of the church, you just have an Ethernet cable, and now you can get a front shot of the congregation. And that's just with a simple joystick there. I mean, it simplifies so much, and it allows you to have such, I mean, just layman's terms, like, you don't have to have a tripod in the middle of the floor. You can just put it on the floor, on the wall, and no one notices it.
Yep.
You know, it just makes it from a simplicity standpoint. The cost is, I mean, I've seen great PTZ cameras down to almost $400.
Yeah.
So it's just ridiculous on just how beneficial they are. And just like you said, it just makes the workflow so much easier, to where somebody like helps kids. They playing video games. There's nothing but a video game. If you want to do that, it makes it really easy. Or, hey, you just preset the positions. You just press a number, and you're good. And it just makes your workflow so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. If you are a ministry leader, reach out to AJay. I'm going to link to all his websites and everything, so you can reach out. He does consultations. He does on-sites. He's like up and down the country. Like, every time I go to his social media, he's at Richmond International Airport going somewhere. So if your church, if you think your church needs some equipment, or you are trying to figure out this live streaming thing, AJay is the guy for you. So I'm going to link to that. And if you are a member of a church and you are frustrated that the Sunday that you can't come to church and you can't even watch your own church's live stream, and you want something to happen, reach out to AJay, because he's the man for the job. AJay, any words that you want to leave the audience with? Where can they find you? What you got going on? Anything like that as we close out?
Well, I mean, first off, I'll say, Monty, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for all of this, the opportunity, and just continue what you're doing, helping out, and then broadcasting the message. I think the more we have conversations like this, not just the tech, but the mindset, it opens up everybody's minds to show, it gets rid of that ignorance. It shows, hey, this is possible. If this ministry, if this person, if they didn't know anything and they're able to do this, I can do that as well too. And just like I said, I mean, you can find me everywhere on social media, AJay the CEO. We're on Modern Media Ministry Made Easy on Facebook. And I mean, we're just out here just trying to help educate people as best as possible we can, to not just sell stuff for me to do it, but to educate them and show them that, hey, you can do it as well too if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you own a Tesla, join AJay's Tesla community. That's an inside joke. But if you guys follow his channel, you'll definitely know what I'm talking about. AJay, I appreciate you for hanging out with me, man, and being a part of this Teach Me Tuesday. I know you guys got some value from today's episode. Leave us a comment. What did you get out of this episode? We definitely want to hear back from you. With that, you guys have a great rest of the day next week.